Oh, it's always nice to be back on the island. Normally, I make these videos in Bangkok, but I flew down to Samui because I wanted to make a very special video with a good friend of mine that lives down here named Petey. He's an inspiring guy because he's nearly 80 years old, doing retirement the right way and having a blast here on the island. Today's video, we're gonna chat about a lot of good stuff, including why he initially chose to make Samui his home away from home, how he went about making friends when he first moved here, a little bit as to what retirement life on the island really looks like, and a lot of other really interesting stuff. Before we get into it though, I just wanted to say, if you're considering building a life, not only here in Samui, but Thailand as a whole, I'd highly recommend that you check out the 8-part video series I've linked below. It covers a lot of really useful information you'll find handy as part of a potential move over here. So if that interests you, just click the link below and check that out. And with that said, let's go say hi to Petey. So Petey, where were you when you first decided that you were moving to Samui?
Adam, I was living in New Zealand. I had retired. I was in the hotel business. We managed hotels, and then we finished up purchasing 4 hotels in California. Been in the industry all my life, actually. So it's nice to be retired.
Yeah, nice. And then what was it that attracted you to Samui? Like, what was it that brought you here?
Well, I actually had met some Thai people in Mount Maunganui, which is a little town that I lived in, which was a beachside town in the North Island. They were from Chiang Mai, and they had invited me to come visit. And that was the first time that I'd been here, and thoroughly enjoyed it. So then after about 6 years, the winters started to get just a little bit too long. And the water's pretty cold in New Zealand, so you can swim like, well, you got to put a wetsuit on or whatever, but you can only really swim for like 3 months of the year. And after my stint in Hawaii, which was a long time ago, I had always enjoyed the water. So anyway, I said, time to go and explore. So I spent 6 months traveling throughout Asia, and had a pretty good look throughout Thailand, and enjoyed it a lot. So Samui was my second last stop, and I'd come from Phuket, which didn't do a lot for me, to be honest. There are areas in Phuket that are very nice, but it just didn't suit me. So basically ended up in Samui. Then 12 months later I was here. In fact, I moved into this villa Christmas Day 12 years ago.
Have you seen it change over that amount of time?
I don't think it's changed a lot. I would have loved to have seen it 25 years ago, when it was very rural and very rustic. I think since I've been here, yeah, yes, in our area, there's been a few new hotels that have been built, but all in all, no. I mean, we don't see the huge high-rises and different other things like, I'm sure, you know, I don't spend a lot of time in Bangkok, but you know, the high-rises and everything are amazing. I mean, it's just incredible. And we don't have that here on Samui, and I don't believe ever will, which I think is a blessing. After working in Hawaii for a number of years and seeing what happened to Hawaii, it's along the same situation.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah, Samui, you know, seems to really isolate itself in a way, you know? Like, I find that the deeper you get into the subculture of Koh Samui, the more it really is kind of its own thing inside of Thailand, I find.
Absolutely. You are separated from, I think, the rest of Thailand to a certain extent. I guess that's good and bad in ways, but great culture, great people, great food, and you could go on and on and on. So,
beautiful nature,
yeah.
Great swimming, nice beaches. It's a special place.
Absolutely, and I found that. I recall the first time I arrived here, there was just something about it that impressed me, and that's how I made the decision that I made.
Yeah.
And haven't regretted it one little bit.
Nice.
So that's good.
Nice. Do you ever get island fever?
A little bit. I recall the days in Hawaii, we'd get island fever. and we'd have to shoot off to the mainland or whatever, just to experience different weather patterns, different seasons, etc., etc. And here it's a little bit the same, but you know, one of the things that that is offered to the residents of Samui is Bangkok Airlines resident card, and anyone that doesn't have one's crazy, because it offers at times at least 50% discount off their fares to Bangkok or whatever. But not only Bangkok, we now have direct flights to Singapore, we have direct flights to Hong Kong, we have direct flights to Chiang Mai, and all of those places are high on our list that we enjoy. So it's the accessibility to places even around the world. I mean, you fly from Samui to Bangkok and the world's your oyster. I mean, basically, you can fly anywhere from Bangkok.
So I was doing a video with a friend of mine in Bangkok a few weeks ago named Steve.
Yeah.
He's another retiree here,
Yeah.
but he's doing the Bangkok retirement.
Okay.
He just loves big cities, the hustle
Yeah.
and bustle. But anyways, he was telling me that Bangkok has 120 international connections from Suvarnabhumi Airport.
Amazing.
That's a lot of connections.
Wow.
So to your point, like
Yeah.
it's, you know, you're a quick 1 hour flight over the pond from Samui to Bangkok, and then you really have the world at your fingertips, you know?
We recently, this year, traveled to Europe, flew into Germany, into Munich, and the choice of airlines we had was fabulous. The only thing that we don't have is direct flights from the States.
No, Thailand
Okay.
has no direct flights to the US. There's one direct flight route from Bangkok to Vancouver,
Yep.
but that's only, I think, during high season, during
Yeah.
like a 2 or 3 month period.
Well,
So-
an excellent example of that is my daughter and her family visited at Christmas from San Francisco, and they flew Eva Air through Taiwan
yeah.
to Bangkok to Samui, and they said the flight was very acceptable to them. So apparently they do a good job.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Eva Air's great.
Yeah.
I've done it so many different ways back to North America. I've gone through Tokyo, Seoul, Taipei, Abu Dhabi. I think that's it. But a lot of different routes back home.
Well, from my past life, I still have a bunch of miles left on United.
Oh yeah.
So United is the choice, but trying to get a seat in either business, more so business class, isn't easy. You know,
Using the points.
using the points. yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
But anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, so just circling back to island life
Yep.
now, what do you think people don't necessarily understand about a retirement in Samui?
I think the biggest thing, if you retire in Samui, you do have to get involved. And get involved, that can mean learning a little bit of the language, learning a little bit about the culture of Thailand, learning a little bit about the people of Thailand as well, who are wonderful. So to me, it's getting involved and finding something to do as well.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
just sit at home
Nah,
all day
no.
and expect things to happen, and also expect that, 5 p.m. margaritas and laying down in the pool for a 15 or 20-year retirement, like that's not going to get boring, right? Like you got to get in your car, you got to drive into the island,
Yeah.
or around the island rather, and just get yourself involved.
I mean, there are so many beautiful spots on the island as well. I mean, you talk about, yes, we know we can drive around the island an hour and a half. Basically, it's an easy drive that way. But there are many, many spots on the island that differ from Chawang and the nightlife and everything else. It's not particularly down south. There's some beautiful spots down there, and it's well worth getting to know the island as well.
How about healthcare here?
A challenge.
In what sense?
A challenge for me because I'd always had health coverage, of course. And when I turned 72, the coverage I had was cancelled. And at the time, I looked at the cost, which seemed quite high to me at the time, probably 300 to 400,000 baht a year. And I made the decision to go self-insured.
And then by virtue of going the self-insured route
Yep.
and not purchasing insurance, can you walk me through some of that math that you were going through in your head at the time you decided that you were going to self-insure? And then compare that to the math that's actually played out over the past 8 years since those buggers canceled your insurance on you?
Well, you know, one of the things about insurance, I'd always been very fortunate in most of my life of not having any serious problems. So, of course, when they cancelled it, I went, you know, okay, I've had no major problems at all. So when I looked at, as we'd say, 300,000 or 400,000, whatever it was, can't remember now, I took that into account in saying, okay, do I think I'm going to spend that 300,000 or 400,000 a year in health costs? And of course, my answer to myself then was, no, I'm not. Okay, yes, I'd had the accident with the arm, but according to the surgeon and everything else, that was going to come good. Okay, so they didn't see there to be any further problems. So basically, doing the math, that's 8 years ago. If we looked at, say, it cost me 2.4 million, if I had bought the insurance, I certainly haven't spent anywhere near that. The exercise in going to Bangkok to remove the plate and replace it with a new plate was around 850,000. So, you know, that was a little more than I had wished for, but it is what it is.
And then what would you do if, you know, God forbid, you go in for a checkup one day and they say you have cancer or you have something super serious like this that's going to require, you know, months worth of treatment and care? What would you do? Fortunately,
Financially, in a position where we could endure some of it.
Yeah.
Okay. But it would be, I would imagine, be quite a scary experience here.
A scary experience in the sense...
Financially.
Financially, gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
You definitely get well taken care of.
Oh, Bangkok Hospital is very, very good here. We have a choice of, what, 5 hospitals on the island. The reason I use Bangkok Hospital is they, can I say, import specialists from Bangkok that come down at different intervals here. They seem to take care of all of our needs. But it's a very professional hospital. I've also had the pleasure of staying with Bangkok Hospital in Bangkok, operation on my arm, and they were absolutely super there. I would imagine it's as good as any hospital that I've ever been. Not that I've been to a lot, but as what you want.
Yeah.
Anywhere. Very, very good doctors, very good staff, incredible.
And you were also mentioning that on the island here, their Samui location, there are some small discounts available to island residents, and that would include Thais and expats with addresses here.
Yes, they do offer a discount to us locals, or residents, for want of a better word. In my opinion, not enough.
Yeah.
But because basically, I would imagine that predominantly their business is through tourism, through tourists that are visiting, and of course, we all know that there are quite a few motorbike accidents here on the island.
To say the least.
Yeah. And
these roads are dangerous down here.
If you don't know what you're doing, don't get onto a motorbike. Best advice I could give anyone. But, basically, so therefore, I would assume that most of their customers, clients, also are insured. You know, so
Like through just standard travel insurance, 'cause
exactly.
they're traveling.
Although you've got to be careful with the travel insurance. You know, anyone that's buying travel insurance, make sure you check the fine print, particularly when it comes to riding a motorbike. There's been a lot of issues regarding not being covered by, do you have a license for a motorbike type of thing, and other rules and regulations. So just a tip to be careful and make sure you look at the fine print.
And then switching topics here just a little bit, but still staying on some of the technical items. You're living here on the non-immigrant O visa for retirement, correct?
Correct.
And for the past 12 years, you've always been on that visa? That's always been your go-to?
Yes, it has been.
And as far as, not the initial application, I'm not
Yeah.
going to ask about that, PD,
Okay.
don't worry, that was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Annual renewals. You take care of it yourself, you don't hire a visa agent, correct?
Correct. I've found that having done it now for 10 or 11 years, it's pretty easy, even though it does change. It can change from year to year. They'll come up with a new requirement. I think last year I needed a photo of myself outside my villa, showing the number of the villa as an example. But as I said, with the history that I have, it's not difficult. It was more difficult when the immigration office was in Naton. It now is in Mainam on this side of the island. And they've improved their systems and services as well. So as a matter of fact, December 28th, I have to get my new visa. And so I've started to put together the necessary documentation. It's quite a long list of things, among them being, of course, a copy of your passport. You have to have a health checkup with a hospital. You have to have 800,000 baht in the bank. You have to draw a map of your house where you live. So there's a bunch of stuff. But again, I've got to know the people, some of the people there that, and they're very helpful as well. There is a service now at the new immigration office that will help you provide, if you want some copies made or whatever the case may be. So to me, it's like a day out. I try to get there about 5 to 1 because it's just before their lunch period ends. And if you can be first in, because I'm in December when I renew, it can be quite busy. So they may keep your passport for 3 or 4 days while they produce the new visa. But it's fun. I mean, you pay, I think I pay 1,900 baht. And if you want a multiple entry, I think it's another 2,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I think another 38 or 3,900,
Yeah,
but
so,
it's pretty cheap.
But, you know, they're helpful. And then, of course, each 90 days I have to report as well. And yes, people say, well, why don't you do it online? Well, a lot of the time the online just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm not super efficient when it comes to working with computers and all the rest of the stuff. So again, every 90 days, I just have to go and say, hi, I'm here, haven't moved. And again, it's something to do. I mean, it's not that I look forward to those, and it's not like we don't have other things to do, but treat it like a bit of a day out and go and do something else while you're there. So it's pretty easy. Yeah, no problem.
And then just general living on the island, grocery shopping, driving around, running errands, things like this, it's all pretty easy down here?
Very easy. Tops Market at Central has got everything that you need there. People say it's a little more expensive, but it's very convenient. It's a world-class, in my opinion, a world-class shopping centre and market. If we want a little more of the local ingredients, fresh fish, prawns, and also good Australian beef, we go to Macro. And Macro in itself it's a little bit like Costco in the States, if you know. It's more in bulk stuff, and you'll see most of the smaller restaurant owners there, you know, buying their stuff, and it's more. You'll see a lot more local people, Thai people, in Macro than you would say in Tops. But between the two of those, not a problem. And then, of course, you've got a multitude of little stores all over the island. 7-Elevens, now, what was the other one called? It's now Tops.
Oh, Tops Market.
Yeah. It's now Tops Markets
With
now.
the old Family
But
Marts.
beforehand, it was Family Mart.
Yeah.
And it'd be nothing to have on one corner 7-Eleven and on one corner, you know, Family Mart. So, you know, that's a very simple thing to do, just to run down the street and if you run out of milk or whatever the case may be. So shopping is not a problem. My daughter was here from America, as I said, in December, and she found it, she said, quite inexpensive. But because I've been gone so long, it's tough for me to line up the cost of goods, because some of them seem a little bit higher to me, but then a lot don't. So
cheeses, cold, like nice
anything
premium,
imported,
cold cut meats.
Anything imported. Yeah. I think basically you're paying more for, and that probably has to do with tax duty or whatever the case may be. Yeah, we enjoy going shopping. It's a bit of fun, and having been here as long as we've been here, you get to know the people there, and it's always, you know, to see that smiling face, etc., etc. It always makes it makes you feel welcome, okay, and it's good. We have it, and there's, like, you know, next week I'm having some guys over for a little steak night. So if I want a good piece of meat, we go to Choice Foods, which is a wholesale operation that supplies most of the hotels with their beef, lamb, whatever. So we just go and buy something there. It's run by an Australian, and the meat's pretty good. So there's plenty of avenues, plenty of different things to do. And I mean, the restaurants here are so good too. I mean, we have our own little local restaurant here, Mr. Ung's, who, you know, we've all frequented, and we probably go once a week. And it's you know, we know the family, we've watched them grow up. The boys work in the restaurant now, and he's a character. So, you know, anytime we take friends are in town, you want a local experience, Mr. Ung's is the way to go. So that's a lot of fun.
What do you dislike about Samui?
That's an interesting question. I find the paperwork is just unbelievable. It's very frustrating at times. The traffic can be horrendous, particularly at you know, the Christmas holidays are our peak, and it can be very daunting being out on the roads. Even though the local Tessa men have done a good job of improving the roads since I've been here, still some areas that they need to work on, but have done a very good job on the ring road. But when you find it's not only daunting, it's also a little frightening, because you got people who are riding motorbikes like myself. I've never been on a motorbike in my life. It would be like me getting on a motorbike and trying to drive it. And we've mentioned before, there are some accidents that do happen. So you've got to be really careful in how you're driving, and also to make sure you watch how other people are driving. So that is also a little bit frustrating as well. But apart from that, I mean, you know, the climate is magnificent. I mean, you know, you're looking at, in fact, it'd be nice to have a couple of months of a little cooler weather than we get. But it's basically, you know, when you look at the beauty of the island, you look at the climate, you look at our beautiful beaches, the water, just fabulous, you know.
Yeah.
Really good. So.
Yeah, well, Petey, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure,
You
man.
know, I opened up this video telling them that you're an inspiring guy because you're nearly 80 years old, yet you're still living life to the fullest.
Next
and
month.
squeezing the most out of retirement. It's really a dream retirement, you know? It's what a lot of people dream of when they're in the grind, 40 years old, 30 years old. Retirement, not on a tropical paradise island.
I've never had second thoughts about the decision that I made. It's just been, and also having good friends here. That also is a big part, I think, you know, within the community, both Thais and Falang people, or expats as we call them. And that in itself is pretty neat.